Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Hopefully you can hear everything. Everything's going well. Really quickly, this is Wednesday Night Live, so it's ask questions, and we're going to give you the best to answer them. But DJI's announcing the... Oh, is it still playing? Is that better? I don't know why the music was still playing. That's weird. Okay, thanks, Tommy. Oh, that's what it is. It's the DJI announcement that I'm trying to steal. But before we jump into that, I want to introduce you to tonight's guest. And as soon as DJI is done with their announcement of the Mavic Mini 2, we'll talk about it and stuff. But if you don't know Stefan Malloch, I think has one of the most focused YouTube channels that I've come across, and has a really unique take on, now why can't I find the right window now? All of a sudden it's gone. Anyway, but you can see his channel here, on not just the technical specs of cameras and lenses or drones or whatever he's working with, but how those specs really do affect the way, or affect your images and the things that you're trying to create and capture. And so he's on Skype right now. But for the moment, we're going to jump in and watch whatever's left of the DJI Mavic Mini 2, which, Stefan, you can talk, right?
I hope so.
Yep. Okay, good.
What's up, guys? Sorry, I didn't know where I was. I was scanning through it, but yeah, let's check this out. I'm pretty stoked about this.
Me too. I am really curious, because from what I've seen, they put the OcuSync 2.0, which is exciting because the Wi-Fi thing just needs to go away. That was the worst. It's just the hardest thing to really make work for very much. And then it sounded like they put 4K in, which is really exciting.
Oh yeah.
I'm
quick
excited.
Shot. You gotta check out that boomerang quick shot. Looks fantastic.
Right?
Quick shots. Do you have the video? Are you gonna play it?
It's playing on the stream right now.
Oh.
I just gypped DJI's premiere video. There we go. It's done now.
Oh, I missed it. I was looking at the specs.
It's exciting. I think, man, if they put 4K in there, I'm probably gonna order one and see. But that is going to be like one of the best little travel drones ever, because it's so small. And if it gets 20-something minutes of flight still, that's amazing.
Dude, 559 Fly More combo, 419. The Mavic Mini 1 is dead in the water. Why would you ever buy that?
That's a goner. All right. So
I'll put my thing in right now, my order.
I'll play the video again here in a minute, from DJI, their announcement video. But before that, I'm going to say hi to people in the chat, and then we'll get this live stream going. So I know Luke Draper's here, Richard Black's here, Mr. 305 for real, Eddie Nunez, all pink. Definitely not watching the election, all pink. Bud Bieber, good to see you. Paul Feinberg, Tommy Calloway. Thanks for the shout out on the music there, Tommy. Let's see, Dash, good to see you. I think Peter McLennan, good to see you, and Intrigueall. It's nice to have you all here. So, as we go through this, to my, that side is, that's Stefan. He is a fellow Northern Hemisphere-ist. I don't know, whatever that is supposed to be, but he lives up north. How cold is it where you are now, Stefan?
It's not cold, buddy. It's about 12 degrees. Vancouver, Canada.
Oh, see, it was 1 Fahrenheit. So what is that, like minus 8 or something? It was cold this morning.
It's hot here.
Oh, all right. I'm not going to talk to you anymore then, because I don't want to talk about it. But yeah. And so I know I talked a little bit about Stefan earlier, but Stefan is a really great photographer. He's captured one of my favorite images, I think, is a super minimalistic image that you've got of, dock posts or pier posts
in
water. I mean, I'm a sucker for minimalism anyway, and you showed that on, I think, one of your live streams I was watching, and I was just like, oh, dang, that is a nice looking image, because it's just so perfectly minimalist.
Appreciate that, bud. I won a bunch of awards on that, actually.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Nature and time reflecting, and I don't know if I told you the story that I wish we could bring it up or something, but that was a mistake. And I say that in every video, right? Make mistakes, get out there and take pictures. Right. And it was a mistake, and it was a really good mistake. So pretty awesome stuff.
Is it on your website?
Let me check. It probably is.
I was gonna see if it's on there. Yeah, I'll let me pull up Steven's website while we're talking about it here. He's got prints and stuff for sale, but just some fantastic imagery. I feel like I get fantastic imagery because I'm lucky just to live where I live, so I don't have to work that hard to get really good images.
I think there's some skill there too, buddy.
Oh, thank you. But your images are they're fantastic. Oh, sweet. There we go. Let me pull this in. There we go. So this is the image here, and you can't see the border because it's white, obviously, but it's just such a great, there's birds standing on almost every pier, and yeah, it's such a fantastic image. And yeah, mistakes are great. That's how we learn. I think a couple of my favorite images are mistakes and accidents that I just happened to catch well, and they turned out great. And then I go back and analyze, why did that image turn out great, and figure out what worked and what didn't about that image. But yeah. So, your thoughts on the Mavic Mini 2?
Yeah, man, look at this. This is I'm looking through the specs right now. It's looking pretty for the money. Like I said, I'm going to pull the trigger immediately. And if anything, just to make some content for the channel and stuff, to see if people should buy it or not. But 4K, we got OcuSync 10 kilometers, which is ridiculous. So that was my biggest gripe with the Mini 1 was, 300, 500, 600 meters, and you're losing connection. So I got the little, what is this called, extender, and that helped a little bit, but it was just so sketchy. And if you're a new pilot or something, it's just, well, $600 or $500 or whatever, and you're flying over water and stuff. Well, I don't know. And this is just so much more confident. Panorama, which is pretty cool if you don't have a lot of editing skill. I love the quick shots or whatever. I think those are super fun, and I think that you can get a lot of sweet footage with that. But there's one thing that's missing here if you're scrolling here like I am, and that's the active track.
Yeah, I figured that would be what they would leave out, which is a bummer, because that's a thing I use all the time. But I'm assuming the hack on this would work as well. If you're doing like the boomerang or the orbit type shot, it will move with you while you're walking. So there, in theory, it's a software thing. It doesn't need the sensors. Why can't we have active track? Right. It's. I assume it's a cripple hammer thing that they just don't want to cannibalize the Mavic Air 2.
It totally is. But we also have a bump in bit rate. We have 100 megabits a second now, which is a huge increase. It still can shoot at 2.7K if you don't want huge files, which is pretty cool. Bigger battery.
Yep. Up to 31 minutes of flight time on a drone that small is crazy. And then I saw it'll resist wind up to 38 kilometers per hour, which is
level 5 wind resistance.
That's huge.
Yeah, dude.
Because that was my big hesitation on. Well, I mean, there were several on the original Mavic Mini, but the wind resistance is a big deal for me because no matter where I go, it's always windy. It just
Yeah.
is. You know, now it might not be crazy windy, but it's
Yeah.
windy enough that I was like, I'm not taking a tiny little drone that likely is going to get blown around.
And your weather is so sporadic,
Yeah.
right? It's just from one second to the next, you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
But
Well, and especially like on the glaciers, it's because there's such a huge thermal mass. They always create their own wind because it's the air comes down and cools and then flows down the glacier. So you always have this wind off a glacier that's cool or cold, and like I can go, the whole entire world can be windless, but as soon as I get to where I'm kind of at the end or at the mouth of the glacier, there's always a steady breeze coming off of it, and it's
that's a factor. Well, another thing to consider, like the biggest thing for me, and to even consider the Mini, is because I'm in Canada and it's a freaking nightmare to get your license or fly anywhere.
yeah.
And anywhere close to an airport or like anything, it's just not worth it. So I have my license, my basic license. And it's literally like a pilot's license to get. Like it's not easy.
Yeah.
And it's for the advanced one, it just doesn't make sense for me. So this is a huge win for me, 4K, and for what I do. For I don't have the beautiful stuff and the stuff like you do, but for creator, for your first drone, it doesn't get any better, does it?
Oh yeah. No, I think this. I mean, I think it's gonna be a phenomenal first drone for people. And looking at it, I mean, I'm gonna grab one because this could be the ideal drone to just have in your camera bag. It's gonna take up no space at all. It's the size of a small lens, and you've got a drone that you can pull out, throw in the air, capture some good 4K footage. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. And especially at that price point.
And that's less than even the rumors were. That's insane. So the Mini, like the original Mini here, I'm holding it. This is I might as well throw this in the garbage. How much is this worth now? Right? Like that's why would you ever buy the Mini?
Right.
And I was talking to Jake earlier, like I just picked up the Pocket 2 here, if you guys probably know this little guy. And this is what confuses me, because this is pretty much the same sensor and whatnot. It's actually probably a little bit bigger, I don't know. But this has the active track, this does not. And that's what frustrates me, because it's clearly a software limitation. So one thing that I thought was cool though is the charging station for the Mini. If you get the Fly More combo,
yeah,
you get 3 batteries in there, and it throws, it's ideal, and that's what I'm stoked about, especially for you for backpacking. You want to go in light. Well, now you can fit these literally in your pocket, throw 3 batteries in your other pocket, and charge this because it doesn't have an external battery. And they're really thinking about the little guy, that you don't have a big camera crew around.
So that's the thing with the Mavic Mini 2. Can you charge it off USB?
The Mini 2?
Yeah.
That I don't know. I think you can, because it's the exact same. It's the exact same physically, pretty much. There's minimal differences, but I'm pretty sure you can. I can check. But I'm
just looking too. Because that's the killer thing. If I can use a USB power bank to charge stuff when I'm out, that's just.
You need to, especially where you are and you're out in your expeditions and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not you need that. Let's have a look.
I've been totally ignoring the chat, so I'm going to try and catch up here while you're looking.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Bud Bieber asks if we care about the Mini 2. Well, we do, Bud, in the sense that it is going to push drone technology forward, which is great.
Absolutely.
And Stefan made a great point of that. The Mini 2 is the drone to get if you want to be able to fly a drone, especially as more restrictive rules get put into place.
If you want to travel, it's most countries in this world have the 249 gram limitation.
Yep.
So for a first drone, like there's no question, I would recommend it to literally anybody. It does charge, for the record, so you can literally grab you can put your single battery in there if you don't even have one, but I like to use the charging case, and it shows you your levels and stuff. And you can just charge it on the go. You can charge your phone or your camera from this. You can charge the old S3 there. You can charge your Pocket 2. So it's a good little system. I like it.
Yeah, that is. I gotta order one.
Yeah, the Mini 2 is a no-brainer. It's like for me, and you look at the Air and the new Air and whatnot. That's an incredible drone. The Mavic 2 Pro is just too big.
Yeah,
I would consider it, but the Mini 2 is actually, in a lot of ways, competing with the Air 2 now. You don't have all the bells and whistles, but you've got your 4K, and you've got your 100 megabits a second. I thought it'd be kind of cool if it could do some time lapses, but you can always do those in yourself and put it together in post, right?
yep.
Those panoramas now.
Yeah, does it do the hyperlapse? Because that's one thing with the Mavic Air 2, being able to do the hyperlapse is pretty fantastic.
Pretty rad, yeah. It's not looking like it.
Yeah. I would think some of those kind of features, they've obviously limited like the active, the intelligent flight modes, and then the obstacle avoidance thing. But let's see. In the chat, Jared Farmer asked if it's a big deal to not have sensors for obstacle avoidance. In my case, like, except for the Skydio, which has all the time obstacle avoidance, I fly with obstacle avoidance off almost all of the time because more often than not, for me, it ruins shots. As I'm like
Totally.
getting a shot, the drone will stop. Either because, like right now in my case, the sun is really low in the horizon because we're so far north, and it will think the sun is an obstacle, or I'm flying through an obstacle because I take risks because the shots are awesome. And it will stop if I have obstacle avoidance on. And so I don't really care about obstacle avoidance, but then I'm pretty cognizant of where the drone is in relation to other obstacles when I'm flying too.
Yeah, I totally agree. I had in my original Mavic, it was more of a burden than anything. You're flying through around a forest or trees, and it just stops you dead, and it's like, well, this is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Oh man, I should probably tell my subscribers that we're live, eh? That was kind of a jerk thing to do.
That looks like a great travel drone. I'm so glad they put the 4K in. And the big thing for me is the 4K and the OcuSync 2.0, because that control link is such a rock solid control link. Not that you need to fly that far away, but just knowing that you can fly a mile easily or a couple kilometers without worrying about the image breaking up or losing connection because the Wi-Fi gets weird or something like that it's fantastic.
Absolutely. And you know what we didn't talk about or see here? One downside for me for the Mini 1 was that it was, as far as I know, the only DJI drone that didn't allow for the FPV goggles. So I'm wondering now, because it's not Wi-Fi anymore, are we going to get to use our goggles in the Mini 2, which would be freaking amazing.
Oh, that would be.
Right? That's next level, especially for people who don't want to invest in a lot, or just introduced to an FPV drone. Like, yeah, I'm pretty excited to see. But hopefully, maybe somebody in the chat can answer that. You guys, and you for sure, Joan or Jake, know a lot more about drones than I do.
Well, and that's the.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And that will be interesting to see. And then when you're talking about that, I'm curious to see if they include compatibility with the DJI Smart Controller, which I would think they would, because it's just a version of the DJI Fly app and it's the OcuSync 2.0. But that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think they're kind of going in a direction where they're trying to sync a lot of their products. I just read that you can use the Pocket 2 with the Mavic Mini controller for, moving your gimbal and stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right? So kind of neat and interchangeable. That'd be kind of neat. Maybe we're going to see some modular stuff in the future. How rad would that be?
That would be fantastic. So they've got this little snap adapter, a thing you snap on the drone, and it looks like you can put a light on it.
Really?
Yeah, it snaps onto the top of the drone, and it looks like, I don't know if they have any of them available yet, but it looks like you could like put a little light on there.
Is it like a mount for maybe like a different camera or something?
Yeah, almost like a 1/4-20 mount that just snaps onto the top of the drone.
That's kind of neat.
That's really neat, actually. That would be, I mean, then you could put a 360 camera on there if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could.
You can also do sphere panoramas, so you can get that 360 kind of look in camera now. So how cool is that?
That is really cool. I'm gonna have to order one as soon as we're done streaming. Let's see. Okay, I've been totally abandoning the chat here, but let's see. Yeah, Eddie Nunez is right, Paul. You need to drop the 40% friends and family discount code in the chat, bud. Hi, Diana Pierce. Welcome to the stream. You're welcome. I should have a affiliate link to the DJI Mavic Mini, but I don't. But if you, whatever. Anyway, and I just dropped the link to Stefan's channel in the chat there. So if any of you don't know about Stefan, the man sitting right there. Hey, I got it right the first time, pointing to you. Then he's a really cool guy with a great channel, and he and I, we've chatted back and forth about a few things here and there, and then, as time goes on, hopefully we'll continue to chat about things.
We're tech nerds.
Yeah, exactly. We're tech nerds, and I think we both like to go out and see what the limits of things are. A little bit, like go take a lens out or go take a drone out and just push it a little bit to the edge and see how it can handle situations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see. Diana, you have a Mini, but the wind is definitely a problem there in Minnesota. I think that's Minnesota. Diana, I'm curious too how it's handled the cold in your area, because that's the other thing that I run into with the Mavic Air. The original Mavic Air really struggled in the cold weather, and I'm curious how the Mavic Mini will do in the cold weather. Yeah, Agent J, you've got a Mavic Pro 1, thinking of getting a piece so you can hook up your GoPro. Would you recommend that? I mean, the problem with doing that, Agent J, is that the drone can carry it for sure, but the question is why, I guess. You don't get the same stabilized footage that you do with the gimbal camera. And so, to me, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not really worth it, in my opinion. Tommy, did I say lights? Yes, Tommy, I did. It looks like you can snap a little light onto the top of the drone, which is pretty cool. But almost certainly, snapping a light on there would put you over the 249 limit, the gram limit, for then having to register it and do all of the other stuff.
True story. Have you done a lot of long exposure, kind of light drone photography?
I've done a few. Let me see if I can pull one of mine up. I did some last winter for the first time. It was fun. I nearly froze my hands off. I almost couldn't feel basically I couldn't feel my fingers when I put my gloves back on. And it got to that point like where it was painful as they warmed up, so I know I pushed it right to the edge of frostbite.
There's an issue up there.
Like another couple of minutes, and I probably would have had some real problems. So all right, so here's one of the images that I shot with the Mavic 2 Pro with a Lume Cube on the bottom. This I just flew up and lit the building. And
awesome.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about right there.
It was fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. It was cold. I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I'll do it again anytime soon. It was just brutally cold on the. It wasn't that cold. I mean, it was 5 degrees Fahrenheit, so cold enough.
You don't have to just go in the winter,
Right. Well, but up here in the summer, we don't get enough dark to really do anything.
Oh, right.
And so there is that kind of in between time of like fall and spring when we get some dark and stuff. But yeah. So that was like Insta360 sent me the 1-inch module, and they were like, go try it in the dark at night and do the star stuff. And I was like, it's June. We don't get dark. We get dim for a couple of hours, and then the sun comes back up. So
Jeez.
let's see. Diana, would the added light add to the drone weight? Yeah, it would, definitely. Luke Draper, you're just on your way to pick up the Mini 2 from Best Buy? Nice. Oh, I should check Best Buy and see if they've got one.
Yeah.
Hey, Combo FPV. Agent J, drone kills your hands. Yes, it does. Go to buy lights. Thanks, Peter. So you're gonna get the Mini 2. Now you've got the Osmo Pocket 2, Stefan. What are your thoughts on the Osmo Pocket 2? Have you gotten a chance to play around with it much?
I honestly unboxed it kind of an hour before you and I started chatting here earlier. I don't know, I shouldn't be surprised. I never used the original, but it's really small and it's really well put together. Like the whole thing came in this little box. I got the creator combo or whatever. And it's everything you need, and the wireless audio is really the big push here for them, I think, and it's just a great field of view. So I'm liking it so far. I haven't actually got to check out the footage and just how if it's going to be a replacement for behind the scenes or like a B cam or something. I'm kind of hoping for. I was kind of hoping just to do some like tips and that kind of stuff when I don't want to haul around another camera. When you got your big lens and you're shooting birds and wildlife and stuff, to swap it over or to bring another one, it's just so much work. So if I can just do this when I'm being creative and in the zone, and why not? But it looks pretty promising, man. Like the bigger sensor, and the price is, man, it's maybe a little bit high for considering you've got a phone in your pocket that can do a lot of the same stuff. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I'll do some stuff in the coming weeks with it and whatnot. But I like the way it's heading. That's for sure. I like what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious for. Is how well it would work as a B camera to kind of shoot the behind the scenes stuff, the B-roll shots of everything else. Because that would be my use case, is like taking it out and using it for all the other stuff while I'm using the main camera for filming A-roll or whatever.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to try it out.
I like the face tracking works pretty good. Like to just move around the room and whatnot. It looks pretty accurate, even when it's a little bit darker. But yeah, just something a little bit different. I was actually going to try and stream with it tonight on this, but yeah, no such luck. I don't know if that's even possible yet. But you can live stream to Facebook or whatever.
Right.
So I don't see why you couldn't.
One thing DJI has done well is their tracking stuff is getting pretty good.
It is.
Yeah.
And again, it's clearly in a lot of cases software. So it's my one thing with this. I really wanted on the Mavic Mini 2. That was my one thing. I'm like, just give us the tracking. And you know what? There's a lot of third-party stuff too that's coming out that you can actually, access active track. It's not as convenient, of course, but it's possible. So maybe we'll see some apps come out where we can use it, a different app entirely. There was one guy who was emailing me to check out his program, but yeah, we'll have to see. But how cool? Did you see the boomerang quick shot? How cool is that?
Yeah, the boomerang that's a cool one, especially if you set it up right where you're facing, something that looks amazing, and it does that pull up and back thing as it circles. Is really, the boomerang I think is one of my favorite quick shots that they've got.
That's awesome.
Peter McLennan asks, would tracking follow your van if you drive slow? You need a single person solution. Like on the Pocket 2, can you select kind of any object to track, or is it limited to faces?
It's active track, so you literally draw a square or double tap, and it will follow whatever you. Well, let's figure it out.
Right. Well, it is active track. It's active track 2.0 or 3.0 or whatever, isn't it? So you can draw a square around pretty much anything and have it track that object.
Yeah. Double click, Follow mode. Yeah, active track on. So it will literally track anything, which is kind of cool. So I was kind of hoping, even for B-roll or whatever, just to kind of, how cool is that? Just to, and how fast it turns on and off, that is pretty sweet too. It's literally 1 second on and off. So if the footage is actually any good, stabilized footage really, really quick, that is a win for me. So, yeah, I don't know. I asked my people the other day, how much do you care about image quality of the videos? And yeah, big surprise, they do. But again, 4K, you look at we talked about the iPhone earlier and how crazy that stuff's getting.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, well, and, because I've been doing tons of stuff with the A7S III since I got it, and the 4K quality on it is just incredible. But then when you put it on YouTube, everything gets so compressed and crunched down anyway.
Yeah.
Like, and the amount of comments I got when I did this side-by-side of the A7 III and the A7S III, the amount of comments I got of, like, it doesn't look any different, which is kind of true. The colors look slightly different to me, but when you look at it side-by-side on YouTube, it doesn't look that different. But when you put it side-by-side on, like, you're looking at the actual files, you can see quite a bit more difference there. But if everything is,
they're sitting on their phone in 480p and 360p.
Exactly.
No.
And that's when I get the hater comments of, like, your video is too soft and mushy and the photography looks terrible because I can't see any details. And I'm like, you could watch it in higher than 240p and you might see more of a difference, but what do I know?
My iPhone's better than your $8,000 setup.
Yeah. I think I have gotten that comment before.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm like, yeah, my iPhone could go out. Well, actually, let's see. Okay, so this was shot with my iPhone 11. I went out, so for those of you on the chat, like, I went out last Friday night to shoot a bunch of low light stuff with the A7S III for a video that I was supposed to release on Monday. Clearly didn't. Probably will maybe get to it tomorrow or Friday, but and the whole thing was it was a full moon and firelight. So I wanted to light the entire video just using the moon and firelight, which is what I did. But while we were there, I was like, well, I'm going to see how good the iPhone does. It actually does pretty well. But then if we go to, here's how the A7S III does in the same setting. Like, it's just night and day difference as far as the depth, the dynamic range, just huge amount of difference in what the A7S III can do. And so, like, this photo here is, I put a light inside the cave, which you can see off on the left-hand side, and then the white on the mountains is actually the moonlight as it was coming up over the mountains.
That's insane, buddy. Full screen that. Let's see some footage here.
Let's see. So here's the time lapse I shot while I was out there. You could see the fire is kind of flickering. It was kind of fun. I didn't know how well that would turn out or not. All right, let me see if I can find. I mean, here's the tiny little bit. Like, that's inside the cave. This is under the huge 3-story chunk of ice that was right next to us that had a hole next to it. Man. Yeah, it's mind-blowing to me that a camera, you can go out and shoot a camera at 12,000 to 20,000 ISO and basically not have any or very little noise, if any noise at all. So let me pull in, where am I here? There we go.
The camera's ridiculous. It really is. It's a freaking marvel.
It is. What it can do in low light is, I mean, the whole entire time I was filming with it, I just kept laughing because it was like, this is ridiculous. How is it even possible that I can film? Granted, I'm using the 24 G Master at 1.4, and I was shooting at 1.4 because I'm like trying to get the most amount of light I could get in there. But I'm going to export a clip here real quick from it so I can play it for you. But it's mind-boggling that it can, it grabs autofocus. Like, it grabbed my eye, it grabbed my face, and it focused on me when it was very dark. And it's crazy.
It's ridiculous. I can't wait to get my hands on it, to be honest. And I'm not even a super video guy, but it's just ridiculous.
Well, and that's
If anything, just to see what it can really do in terms of photography, because yeah, of course I'm going to be the one guy that's like 12 megapixels. Yeah, no, sorry, not going to happen.
well, and
I'm not
that's
shooting owls and birds at 12 megapixels. Sorry.
yeah, and that's the thing that when I first got it, I was like, A7 III's photography, and it still kind of is, and the A7S3 is video. And so that is kind of the way I've been going. Like if I'm shooting headshots and stuff like that, the A7 III is what I'm going to grab if I'm just, but the quality of the photos at 12 megapixels has really shocked me. They're just much, I like them much more than I thought I would. Which is, you know, and
for the average person, if you're just doing social media and stuff and you're just a hobbyist or whatever, I think, you know, it's a fantastic, well, again, I don't think it's really a hobbyist camera, but
yeah, no, it
you can get away
is
with
not.
It, is the thing, in a pinch.
But yeah, it could. I mean, I'm very curious to see what Sony does with the A7 IV, because I think that will be if they do it right, it'll be a bombshell as far as the best hybrid camera for both photo and video if they do it right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got some footage here. So this is filmed at 1.4 f-stop 1.4 ISO. I think is 20,000 if I remember right, and the only light in this is the moon. If you can believe that.
Can we see this? Or oh, there you go. Wow. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
I mean, and it's focusing on my face. It's grabbing. I mean, it was just mind-blowing. And so to the naked eye, like, you can't see any colors. You can't see blue in the sky. You don't see the red in the jacket, because pretty much at that point, everything has just become grayscale to you. You can see shadows, you can see light and dark, but you can't really see the color because of the way our eyes operate in such low light. And then I'm looking at the camera screen going, but I can see red and I can see blue and I can see colors in places that, like his jacket and backpack, and it just and the fact that I'm shooting the moon, which looks like the noonday sun, but you can still see the stars in the sky. It just, yeah, it was really, really wild. I want to go out and do it again now that I've done it once and actually film something and do some proper stuff with it, because it just blew me away.
Yeah,
but
that's ridiculous.
We don't have a full moon now, so I'll have to wait till next month.
Oh man, I thought Peter McKinnon was in the chat for a second there.
Every time I see Peter McLennan, I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, oh, no, it's not. Oh, man. Okay. I've totally ignored the chat.
Oh, no.
Let's see. We're in December. I think it would ship. Agent W, I think they're catching up. As far as the A7S III goes, I think they're catching up. But the best option is to go around to your local camera shops and see if they have any, because they get stock intermittently, like little bits. And so like my local camera shop now has had like 4 or 5 come in since I got mine, and they just post it on social media. It only lasts for an hour or two, but then, you know, probably your best bet right now.
Yeah, and people, you go on the pre-order list a lot of the time, and you get the call and they're like, yeah, I changed my mind, or I already got one, or whatever.
Right.
So just asked to be on the list.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I asked, as soon as they announced it, I called my local camera shop. Well, actually, slightly before they announced it, and I was just like, hey, put me on the list. I ended up 3rd on the list, and the first day, they had 3 come in, and so I got fortunate and got one. Peter McLennan said he printed one out at 30 inches on the long side for the A7S III image, and he said it looked fantastic. That's great.
Oh,
Agent
nice.
J asks to explain the 24 megapixel versus 12 megapixel and the differences between those. So do you want to talk about that, Stefan?
Resolution?
Yeah, like what happens when you get higher megapixel sensors as opposed to why you would want a lower megapixel sensor, and how how they intake light differently, and probably also like what their use cases are, why you would want to go for higher resolution over better low light performance and so on.
Yeah, I think 24, everybody says, is kind of the sweet spot because it's, you know, it's the hybrid camera. It can do a lot of things. It's great in low light, but the 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 more megapixels you have, the more it's going to struggle in more in low light because there's more information. So there's going to be more noise. So yeah, 12 megapixels is not going to compare to 24, but at the same time, you just have to ask yourself what you're doing. Are you a photographer or are you a video shooter? And for me, I'm a primarily a photographer, and I want the crop if I need to, and I want detail, and I'm not as much of a video guy, so that's why I kind of stay clear of that. But if you're a video shooter and you do the occasional photo, I think 12 megapixels is ample for the average person, especially if you're just uploading to social media, like you said, is just going to get.
Uh-oh, I think we lost this Skype call. Hopefully it'll come back. We'll see. Hopefully that's not me. No, so says we're good. All right. So like he was saying, yeah, you want higher megapixels, especially if you want to crop in post. But the higher up you go in megapixels, especially beyond 24, when you start getting a 30 range, 40 range, 60 range, you start losing low light performance, both because the pixels are so small they can't take the light in as well, but also because oh, there we go. I think you're back now, Stefan. But also because there are so many megapixels on a 42 or a 60 something megapixel sensor, they have to put a filter in front so you don't get these weird artifacting anytime you take a photo where the details kind of go nuts because you've got so much detail in the image. And what that does is then when you go out and shoot in low light, like star photography or something like that, is those filters will actually make stars disappear because they're trying to handle the amount of detail coming into the image, into the sensor, and correct for it. It's a anti-aliasing filter. Isn't that what it's called?
Yeah. If you want the detail, like high A7R4 and 3, they have an anti-aliasing filter. Or sorry, they don't have it, and that is going to give you more detail, in theory.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tricky thing. But like your buddy there pointed out, you can still even print big photos potentially on with low megapixels. It just depends on your needs. It's not about, there's a big war going on over the megapixel thing, right?
Yeah.
But it all comes down to what you need it for. For me, I crop all the time. I'm kind of a freak when it comes to quality. I like my low ISO. I want the best quality I can, and so I learned how to shoot well instead of relying on technology. The way you hold your camera and shutter shock, everything that you can do in cameras obviously has to be as good as it can be, rather than relying on it in post. I hope that makes sense.
It does. I know Paul Feinberg asked what your thoughts were on the A7C because he hasn't had a chance to watch your video. So I know we were talking about it a little bit beforehand, but feel free to expound.
I knew it was coming. Yeah, it's not my favorite camera, to be honest. It's a video specific camera, and at the price of the A7 III currently, I would honestly, unless you're 100% creator or your photography is not a priority, I wouldn't recommend it to really anybody, because we've seen how amazing the A7 III is when it comes to video. Like, in capable hands, it's phenomenal. The flip screen, I've always been an advocate of it, if you know that, and I finally got it, and it kind of bugged me a little bit, to be honest. It was when you're shooting, especially you're getting high and low and you want that quick shot, especially for photography, it's a burden to kind of bend out and use. So that was one thing to consider. The active track was okay. It wasn't perfect, but it was kind of neat. I enjoyed that kind of feature. But the gyro stabilization was kind of laughable, and I talked to you a bit about that, Jake. Just the process of taking it into the Catalyst and stabilizing it, it's not your normal workflow if you use something like Premiere, so it takes an astronomically long time. And rather than using a warp stabilizer, I did a video on gyro versus warp stabilizer versus IBIS. And for me, for the difference for the average person, it's really not that significant. So at the price, I gotta say, like, it's a no-brainer. A7 III all the way, especially if you can, fandangle and a EDU discount. It's like $1,500 right now, US.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How is it still one of the best value for money cameras that you can buy? Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And they have such an opportunity to literally, with the A7 IV, destroy the market yet again. Did you just see that, like, Malaysia Nikon's done? They're shutting down. So
yeah.
Nikon hasn't been doing great, and they released the Z6 II. Rather unimpressive, if you ask me. But A7 III, man, if anybody's on the fence, there's no reason to be.
Yeah.
If you're a hybrid shooter, a true hybrid shooter, you like photo and you like videos, still, I would go back and do it all over again, even today. But hopefully that answered your question. But it was just the ergonomics were terrible. There's no joystick. There's no front dial, which is just insane. And I don't know why they couldn't have included the front dial. And the worst part of that by far was the EVF. And I told Jake about this. I'm passionate about this EVF because it's so bad, and Sony's going to hate me for this, but you literally have to cover up your eye. You have to cover it up to see it in daylight. So the resolution is the same, but it's much smaller. It's just it didn't do it for me. And yeah, I'm just not one to tell people what they want to hear to impress the big guy, and clearly that's not going to happen. But so A7 III, man, all the way.
Yeah, I agree. I contemplated selling my A7 III for the A7C, just because colors would match closer to the A7S III and stuff like that. But then I saw the lack of custom buttons, the lack of the front dial, the lack of the joystick on the back. I was like, no, that's a deal breaker for me. I can't go without those things.
Right. And yeah, there's literally no comparison. You would cry at the difference. The color science is again, you're going to edit and post anyways.
Yeah.
So if it's minimal, there's a tiny difference. Again, I'm not a super crazy, obsessive video guy, so it's not that big of a difference to me. But for photography, I struggled. I missed hundreds of shots. I took out I wanted to see it before I left. I took out the new Sigma 100 to 400 and just went to town using the active track and all that jazz. And I struggled with it. I missed, like I said, hundreds of shots because of just the lack of intuitive nature of the camera and no joystick and stuff. It was just silly. So hopefully I didn't break too many hearts.
I think that's the general consensus from everybody I've seen that is using it from more of a professional viewpoint. Is they're saying, like, the sensor isn't bad, the quality of the photos isn't bad, but the usability of the camera is really limiting if you're going to go out and use it that way. It just, other than like filming yourself, vlogging type stuff, but if it's not a serious photography camera because it's lacking some of those, those things that you need to be able to quickly adjust features.
You got eye autofocus in video, which is okay, but you're not going to handhold it because the IBIS is terrible, so you're not going to vlog with it, right?
Right.
So what's the difference between you sitting there with eye autofocus or just your zone, which I use all the time? And you mentioned professional. It's not a professional camera. It only has one card slot. So I would never trust it. I've had stuff go on shoots before, and this is your client, this is your livelihood. You can't not afford to have that happen. So it's not a professional camera, in my opinion. It can produce professional results, which I say with a lot of things, but it's not a professional camera.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like it. I really did. I wanted to kind of redeem it when I saw it, and I'm like, what is this? There's not even 4K 60? Like, that was it. That's what you needed to do. If I had 4K 60, it would be a way bigger hit than it is for a lot of people. For you video shooters and creators and stuff, right? It would have been huge. Opportunity missed.
Right. And that's, I think it was Gerald Undone who was talking. I think I caught him on a live stream somewhere where he was talking about how he felt like the A7C was designed and kind of like being rolled off the the production line, and they were going to announce it differently than they did when Canon dropped the R5 and the R6. Then they realized they had to really come around with the A7S III and get that out there, or they changed their timeline around on how they were going to release those products because of the R5 and the R6. And I think it was a great move on their part because they clearly dominated the news cycle when when Canon made the missteps of promoting all their video specs on their cameras, and then nobody was like, but you can't use it because they're all overheating all the time.
What a debacle.
Sony comes along and is like, ours doesn't overheat. That's basically all they had to do. Decent 4K quality with 120, and they'd be like, yeah, no overheating. And it was...
That's it. That's done.
Yeah, it was a great deal. So
they botched that real bad. The R6, the R5, those are incredible cameras.
They are.
They're insane. Like on paper, it's the perfect camera. Like it's insane. But they screwed that up so badly. I just shake my head at it because and then Sony comes in as they were doing. I think they had that they had to answer quick, but the S3 was just exactly what it was. Perfect timing.
Yeah,
that thing's just a dream.
And that's the thing I tell people. In fact, somebody up here got the R6 after I talked to him about it for a while because he is a photographer. That's what he does. Video clips here and there, but photography is his thing. And nice. As photography cameras, both the R5 and the R6 are fantastic. They take really great images, and the RF glass is really nice glass. But as video cameras, and that's where I don't understand why Canon hyped the video features so much of their photography cameras, because they are, I mean, that is what they are, but they have video features.
Yeah, they're capable. Absolutely.
But they're, it just...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't understand the marketing department there.
No.
Apparently they had a bad day or something.
Right? No, bad day, a bad couple months. Like,
well, that's true.
And you got to admit, you saw that thing right on release day, and you're like, oh my god, like, I guess I'm switching back to Canon. Like, this is insane. And then it was one thing after another, and honestly, you haven't really heard much more about it, have you?
Not really.
There was Pete, came out with the Grail camera video and stuff, and then, as far as I know, like, he's still shooting with the 1DX Mark III for the most part. Like, where did that camera go? So, I don't know. That RF glass is really nice looking, but it's freaking expensive. Holy crow!
It is.
Holy, is that expensive? I saw a kit lens. And I laughed out loud. I think I saw it in the store. I'm like, really? It was like $1,800 or something for the kit lens?
Yeah.
A variable kit lens. Although, it better be pretty darn good. But like, look at all the third-party stuff we got these days. We've got options. And there's just so much good glass for, you don't have to have that premium. I think that, before Sony, we're just in a day and age, like Sony's they're just in a really good spot, And everything that's come, our lens availability for what we have is just exploded in the last couple of years. There's too many now. It's overwhelming. I'm loving it because look at this. I got freaking lenses everywhere. But it's a good time to be alive, isn't it? Competition everywhere. 2021 is going to be good.
It is. So
when do you think we'll see the A7 IV?
I think we'll see 4K 60 for sure. I really hope that it's 10-bit. That if they don't put 10-bit in there, I think it would be a misstep on their part. So 4K 60, I would be okay if they left it with a 24 megapixel sensor, but I think they need to do a new sensor at least. But it would be nice if they pushed it to 30, 32 megapixels or something like that. Would be great. Mm-hmm. The flip out screen for sure, the new menu system for sure, and I think that it would be. I don't think we'll see it, but it would be crazy cool if they started implementing their LiDAR focus system for low light.
Absolutely.
Or LiDAR assisted focus system or something like that would be amazing.
You don't have the electronic NDs in the S3, do you?
No.
that was something that I kind of would like to see in that. I think that, it's possible. I think that'd be kind of cool to be introduced. I don't think it's going to come in the S or the A7 IV, but just something. We need to step it up. We need to see 4K 60. But again, if you start going to that, you're going to get into the CF Express cards, and that's going to get more expensive, and that takes it to a totally different level.
Yeah.
So it's a balance. When do you think we're going to see it? When's your guess?
My guess is like, I'm thinking they're going to announce it February, March next year, and it'll probably release in April or May. That's my thought, but I mean, who knows? It's so. Peter McLennan was asking what would be a best starter lens for the Sony A7S III coming from a Nikon D800, but having good manual focus is something he needs. Would you, because like I like the Tamron glass, the Tamron glass that they've been producing has been really nice, but the manual focus is not great because it's not linear. Is the Sigma glass, does that have a linear manual focus option?
Sigma's manual focus is superior for sure. And like for the classic example is the 24-70 versus the Tamron.
Yeah.
I've got a couple videos on that, but I love my Tamron, and again, I've had my battles with both of these lenses. The manual focus is in a different universe with the Sigma. It's bigger, it's heavier, but it's just for video. I would recommend the Sigma a little bit more if you're a serious shooter.
Right.
Hands down. They also have I know you have to buy the dock, but Sigma includes the ability to put your lens on your dock. You can't do it through just your camera, unfortunately, but you can go in and hone in your automatic and your manual focus to your liking using their, what is it called? It escapes me, but it's just their dial-in. They've had this software all the way back to, I used it for my 100 to or 150 to 600. But now you can still do it. You got to buy the dock, but if you're really serious about your manual focusing and video and stuff, that's something to look into for sure. Although it's decent, if you want to dial it in, that's an option for you. But Tamron, I love the optics and the design of Tamron lately, like the macro capabilities, the dual. I almost think of it as like a dual, like multi-purpose lens now.
Yeah.
Like the 28-200, that thing is absolutely incredible. That is the best all-in-one lens right now that I would recommend to anybody. It's phenomenal. It's a 2.8 variable. You got macro capabilities. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But they have different purposes. They have different strengths and weaknesses. The Sigmas are always bigger and heavier, better built, and the Tamrons are friendlier. I don't know is the word. They're more, I like to use the word clinical because they don't typically have as many aperture blades.
Yeah.
Optically, they're not quite there. They're very, very close. But we're splitting hairs, between the G Master, the Sigma Art, the Tamron, DGDN. Like, we're splitting hairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really depends. People always assume that it is what it is, but it's not true. Every piece of equipment has a use for a person. Everybody's needs are different, So to answer your question, going back, that was a tangent, but the Sigma absolutely for manual focus, there's no question. It's superior. It just feels good, Yeah.
I agree, and that's where, like, for me, the Tamron lenses they hit the sweet spot of being really compact, lightweight, portable, but still having really great image quality. Obviously, like a lens with optical image stabilization would be nice, but then you got a lot more size, weight, cost, and so that's where the Tamron lenses have been great. Plus the versatility of being able that most of them have some sort of macro capability that you can get right in there, which is fantastic.
And the price.
Take a whole, and then the price is just awesome. And when I first got my Tamron lenses, I was a little worried, especially the 28-75. I was a little worried about the durability because it's plasticky kind of feeling, and you know, it's lightweight. It doesn't feel expensive like a heavy metal lens or something like that.
Yeah.
But so far, all the things I've put that lens through, I'm like, okay, they're pretty dang durable, man. They have gone through some stuff. But yeah, what would you say your top like 3 favorite lenses are for Sony right now?
Oh, right now at this moment,
Yeah.
100 to 400 G Master, constant for me. Freaking love that thing. It's just, I love it. It's just so versatile, and yeah, I've always kind of been in love with that lens since day one. I bought it used, actually. I didn't even buy it new, and I just stole it, and it was just, yeah, I've loved that thing ever since I picked it up. This guy, I was talking to you about it. This is again, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep this thing forever, but this is the Sigma 35 f1.2. It is literally fatiguing. It is a beast. It's so heavy, but oh my, is it a masterpiece? It is absolutely beautiful, and it's got a nice aperture dial. It's well made. I'll have a video on it coming up here pretty quick, a review after the 100 to 400 in a couple days here. But this thing is just absolutely beautiful for portraits or environmental portraits or anything. It's been raining for a couple weeks here, so I'm trying to get some decent weather. Loving that thing. And then other than that, I can't really. I would just say probably one of my classic standard zooms, maybe a 24-70 or the 28-75, which I use a lot. I'm filming on the 16-35 right now, f4 Sony, and I use that a lot too. So, but yeah, for the most part, the 100 to 400 is always on my camera if I'm outside, and if I'm doing, you know, people. Right now it's the Sigma, and then for everything else, I love my 90 too. Don't discount that 90. That thing's amazing. Tons of B-roll, very sharp. I love all lenses, man. All lenses.
I know, and that's the thing when people are like, what's your favorite lens? My first thing is always like, in what situation? Because like it varies, like it just varies so much depending on what you're shooting. It really is hard to go, this is my favorite lens of everything of all time, because it does everything, because really no lens does that per se. I mean, like shooting in the moonlight, the 24 1.4 lens, like I did mess with my Tamron 17-28 a little bit just to see kind of how, but the fact that you have that much more light capability of getting light into the camera, it made a huge difference in the image, the end image, and it's just a spectacular lens anyway. It's so sharp, and it's a great lens. But yeah, when I used to have the what was it, the Laowa 15 millimeter f2, that lens was so much fun to shoot certain things with, because you could go in and you had these really great straight lines, but a massive field of view, and then you could get this close to something and still focus on it, and you know. But then again, it was not a great lens for video because you had to focus everything yourself. And yeah. You
know what I do? You know, when people ask me like my favorite lens, don't think about what you're shooting with it and, you know, oh, this is the newest and the best. Go back and look at your favorite photos.
Yeah.
The ones that, you know, the 10 or 12 a year that are the primo, the award winners. Go look at the EXIF data and look at which lenses you're using, because you'll probably be surprised if you look back. You know, I shoot a lot of photos, and the ones, you know, when I look back, it's like, you know, what was I shooting at that point? And I was kind of surprised when I went and looked back at my best and my favorite photos, the ones that mean the most to me. And that's kind of how I think about my favorite lenses of all time. And the 100 to 400 always kind of rings a bell. And then honestly, my Canon, my old Canon 24 to 105 f4, that, you know, old bulky thing, the L series one from back in the day, I loved that thing when I was kind of just starting to get going in this, and I got so many good pictures out of that thing, and it wasn't expensive, you know, $700 or whatever. So it really depends. It's just there's no one lens. There isn't, especially
Yep.
when you really get into this.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree.
it's endless.
I think for me, my favorite lens overall right now, because it's the lens I shoot most everything with, is the Tamron 17-28.
Hmm.
But it's, that's for me and what I'm doing and the way I'm shooting. Like it's the most versatile lens that I've got, and it's the lens that fits the need for most things that I'm shooting. And it's probably the lens that I've had most of my favorite photos with, just because it's the lens that's been on my camera when I've been somewhere taking a photo. But it is a nice lens. It does well in landscapes. It does well in low light. I mean, it is a good lens.
Which one?
The 17-28 on the Tamron.
Oh, 17-28. Oh yeah, that's a fantastic lens, right? So compact. The price is right.
Yeah,
absolutely. Fast 2.8.
It's great. And most of my astro shots, most of my low light shots, most of my landscape shots have been with that lens. And it does a great job.
This video is not sponsored by Tamron, is it?
No, but Tamron, if you're listening, you could. I'd be okay with that.
Right? Very well could.
I'm happy they send me new lenses. So like right now I've been working with the, where is it? Oh, it's over there. The 70-300 one that they're releasing, or that they just released. And it's a nice lens. I know people knock them for not doing certain things on their lenses, but they have found this this combination of cutting out certain things, like image stabilization, or you maybe altering the focal length from the traditional focal length just enough to where their image quality is really fantastic, but the lens stays small, lightweight, compact. Some of those combination of things that I think they've really hit the market well with what they've been releasing so far.
Absolutely. Does that lens does not have image stabilization, did you say?
It does not.
Oh my goodness. See, that surprises me. 300 with no IS, that is insane.
Yeah, so I
had an issue with the 70-180. Tell me about this.
So, it does okay with if you're somewhat steady in photos anyway. If you're somewhat steady and you obviously can only go down so far in your shutter speed, but the IBIS and stuff will do okay with the lens. But for video mode, it's a little bit harder. Obviously you gotta really, really be careful and maybe lock off your shots more. But
that's pushing it.
But it is pushing it. I don't see you going any further zoom wise than that on the telephoto end too, without having to just do tripods or without having to implement some image stabilization.
But that's not what's the aperture of that lens? It's not overly fast, is it?
No, it's 4.5 to 6.3. So yeah. It's a little bit, if I remember right, it's a little bit darker than the Sony 70-300, but then the Sony 70-300 has image stabilization built into the lens too. So I'm going to grab that lens and could do a direct comparison between this and that to kind of show the differences between those two lenses.
I think that one thing that Sony's really lacking on here is the IBIS, and I'd like to see that active IBIS, the electronic image stabilization, brought to the A7 IV, because that is the weak point of the A7 III, if you ask me. It's not good in this day and age. Look at the GH5 and stuff. Like it needs to compare. It needs to. So, with that lens on the A7 III with the IBIS, that's a tough lens to use. It's a wildlife lens, right? It's sports, wildlife. It's designed to get out there, and at 6.3. No IBIS, that's pretty tough. Or no image stabilization in the lens.
Right.
That's going to be a tough lens. How much was it? Do you know what the MSRP on it is?
Like 540 something US.
Oh, so that's not bad.
It's really inexpensive.
Yeah, wow.
And so if you're wanting to jump into wildlife, and you don't mind pushing your ISO a little higher, because you can only go so far down on your shutter, obviously, then it'd be a good start it'd be a good starting into some of the more long telephoto lengths, but I think you'd outgrow it fairly fast if you really wanted to go down that line of doing lots of wildlife or lots of really heavy telephoto type work.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But it's great to see so many releases from them. This year, the last 2 years has just been insane.
Right. Well, because that used to be the major criticism of Sony was there wasn't enough good glass available.
Yeah.
But now there's a lot of options between Tamron, Sigma, and Sony that have been released. You really have a lot of options, and a lot of really great options too, not like mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always the question: is it worth it? And I put out a video recently. I don't know if you saw it about it was on the 24 to 70 versus the 28 to 75 and the warranty issues that I had, customer service.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, the only lenses that I haven't had many issues with, like at all, are my Sony lenses, the ones that cost the most, with a year warranty or whatever. But I tell people now, if you do invest in whatever, buy the warranty. Don't even think twice. And there's a 6 and 7 year warranty on these, and 10 or whatever if you extend it, for a reason, because you're probably going to need it.
Yep.
So I don't know. Have you been pretty lucky with your experiences over time?
I have. I did have to send my 17 to 28 in to get repaired, but my process was really painless. Like, I sent it in, they had it back to me in 2 weeks.
Wow. Where'd you ship it to?
New York.
Holy crow! So it's not like it's close either.
Well, nothing's close to me.
Now, did they know who you were?
No, not at that time.
Okay. So that kind of can play a factor too, but
yeah, because
my experience was terrible, absolutely terrible with Tamron.
Right, I saw that video of yours. I was like, wow, that's unfortunate. But it wasn't just a one-off deal for you either, was it? It was kind of in a row twice.
Well, I had to send it back because there was stuff in my lens and there was screws, backed out on the lens. I'm like, what happened? It's like they, were working on it at lunchtime and then forgot about it and just put it in the box and sent it away or something. So yeah, I wasn't very happy with that. It was a three-month process. But Sigma, holy crow, like 3 days back, we'll air it back and forth. And I still had issues, but you got to look at that too.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed I don't have any Sony issues, but
that's what I'm starting to notice. My A7 III is, and I can't tell if it's that I'm now used to the A7S3 and the speed at which it responds to whatever I'm doing with it, or if it's that my A7 III is finally starting to show that I've taken a lot of places and done a lot of things with it, and now it's getting old. Because every once in a while I'll be like, come on, what's the problem here? And then I'm like, okay, has this always done this? Or is it just that I'm used to the A7S III now and the A7 III feels much slower?
Could be. Probably a little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, I'm going to have to wrap the stream up now because I've actually got to run to an engagement that I've got on the other side of town here. And any parting thoughts, Stefan?
I think we covered a lot today. Yeah, it's awesome that so many people joined us today. It's good to see you. Sorry, I didn't really engage. I just actually opened the chat about halfway through, so sorry if I didn't respond to anybody. Yeah, hit this thumbs up if you like this stream and you want to see more of it for Jake. He does it every Wednesday, I believe, right? At 5 o'clock. So awesome. Hit that like and subscribe and make mistakes and be yourself, all that jazz, and get out there and do whatever. Take some pictures and stuff.
That's right. I agree. Go out. Making mistakes is one of the best ways you can learn and get better at something. It teaches you so much, so fast when you go out and mess something up and realize what you did wrong. Yeah. And because you will never forget the lesson you learned.
Throw it on manual and go.
Yep, exactly.
Screw up until you get it.
So, and again, if you haven't, let's see, I think I'm going to pull it in here. If you haven't checked out Stefan's channel, you really should. He's got a great channel. and some really fantastic stuff on photography and cameras. And if you've got a question, especially about a lens and if it's good or not, you should check his channel out because he is very good. Whereas I run out and go, yeah, it takes pictures. He really dives into why it takes good pictures or why it doesn't take good pictures in some cases. So if you haven't checked him out, you should check him out. Here's his channel in the chat. But hopefully, I'd love to have you back sometime in the future as we go down this fun journey of YouTube and photography and videography and stuff. And
love it.
Yeah, stay warm and stay safe. Thank you all for joining in the chat tonight, for joining in the live stream. Hope you're all doing well. I will be back next week, same time, same place. And in the meantime, hopefully 1 or 2 videos will get out on my channel too, if I actually do the work I'm supposed to be doing. But we'll see. So, and beyond that, everybody, thank you very much for being part of this community and part of the channel. I appreciate y'all. We'll see you again soon in the next video. Cheers.